All right, I will go ahead and begin the presentation for our 5.11 upgrade. To describe what the presentation will be, it's just going to show an overview of the major changes that are happening and the major changes that most everyone will see. It won't go into the specifics for each individual program because those will be handled later with each individual program. That way everybody doesn't have to sit through something that doesn't necessarily pertain to them. I'm going to go ahead and start. This is our test site, but it is upgraded to 5.11. One of the first things that I want to talk about here is the U.S. military veteran that we see on the summary page. You can see it has an answer. And so this question has been moved out of individual assessments and into the client demographics. So if we go over to client profile, we can see U.S. military veteran is now under client record. And I'm going to click on this pencil and it will give me the option to change U.S. military veteran. I'm going to take this opportunity to also mention another minor change in 5.11. As you can see from this drop down, we have yes, no, client doesn't know, client refused, and data not collected. These three answers at the bottom have now replaced the don't know, refused that was previously there and really clarified the situation to the client doesn't know, or the client refused, or the data was not collected. I'm also going to mention name data quality. Before we only had date of birth and social data quality. Now we have the name data quality. So we have full name reported, partial street name or code name reported, and then of course R3, don't know, refused, data not collected options. And those are really the major changes that are on this client profile page. I'm going to go ahead and move over to the entry exits and talk about some of the changes there. And what we have now is interims and follow-ups. So the difference between these two is very minimum. The interim is during the program and the follow-up is after the program, but they essentially work the same way. So I'll just show you how the interim works. We can add an interim review. Again, you include the entire household, just like this was an entry exit. We have the type, which now gives us a 30-day to 120-day review, an annual assessment, and an update. Now, annual assessment will be required by all government-funded programs, and that will be the annual date of when the client entered the program. So it's really only pertinent to longer-term programs, some transitional housing and permanent housing, and it has to be done within plus or minus 30 days of the entry, the original entry date. And then we have an update, which can be used for things like outreach, where every time you contact the client, if you want to add an update, you can do that here. I'm going to click on annual assessment and save and continue. It's not going to let me do that, of course, because it has to be annually. So I'll just click seems like my site has a little bit of problems. And with the annual assessment, we have a shortened questionnaire. And I'm going to go into some of these changes here later, but I just wanted to give you an overview of what that shortened questionnaire looks like. It's not a full questionnaire. I'll go to the assessment to talk about some of the other changes now. And I'm going through this rather quickly. These things will be broken down and written, and video tutorials will be created and added to OWHMIS. And if you ever want to watch this video later, you can also watch this on OWHMIS as well. So as you can see, these questions are fairly standard. You've seen them before. And these questions will be new or slightly different. So length of stay in previous place. This is a few things that are added are 1 day or less and 2 days to 1 week. Relationship to head of household. You'll be familiar with this question if you've ever created or edited a household, but they also want to include it into the assessments now, which is a bit redundant, and so we can select the relationship, whether it's self, child, spouse, or partner. And then we have client location, which will only need to be answered for adults as well. And this is a little bit different. You'll see it's FL505, FL511 here. On the actual site, the live site, you'll see a lot of ALs as well. All you need to remember is FL505 for anything in Okaloosa or Walton counties. Continuously homeless for at least 1 year. And these questions are fairly standard, but they are new. So number of times the client has been homeless in the past 3 years. If 4 or more, the total number of months homeless in the past 3 years. Total number of months continuously homeless immediately prior to project entry. And length of time homeless status documented. And that's going to be a yes or no. Now we have a HUD verification over our monthly income, and that's new as well. You may have seen this in the video that I uploaded. I'm not going to go too much into detail here, but I just will say that if you have HUD verification and you have a red triangle, it means that you're missing information. Whereas if you have HUD verification and a green checkbox, it means that all the questions are answered for that. So when I click on the HUD verification, you can see we have 1 incomplete. Everything else is yes or no. And then we do not want data not collected, and we do not want incomplete at all. So I'm going to check no on this, going to save and exit, and that turns that into a green checkbox. And again, there is a slightly longer, more in-depth version of this explanation on owhmis.org. The other minor change that we have is for programs that do not have entry exits. So a soup kitchen, for example, we now have the option to add a destination for the client to the service. And what that means is when they exit a program, generally there's a question that says, where are they leaving to? Whether it's leaving back into homelessness or leaving into self-sufficiency or whatever it may be. Now we can have that question for services. So if you are at a soup kitchen and you are asking somebody, where are you going to stay tonight, you can add that information in, and new reports that are being built will be able to pull that out. Most of the changes to 5.11 are behind the scenes. So these are the major changes that we have that are visible to people who input the data. And I also wanted to talk about length of time homeless. The status is documented. And so they have changed how you can document that. And or they want to know specifically how you document that. And the way that we are going to document it is through contact and keeping written records, as well as putting the information in here. So if you have a outreach program, you'll want to add those updates. And if you have services that you give out, you'll want to include those. And then you can officially say that you have documented this length of time. Now, this was a very quick overview. I don't want to waste anyone's time. There will be a conference call at the end of this for those who want to ask additional questions. Thank you very much for viewing this. And if you have any questions, please visit the page. You can also visit OWHMIS, where the conference call number will be.